I was working on a documentary about my hometown and I wanted to try to understand it a little bit more. And so at one point I had reached out to my friend who worked for the Saginaw News and I said, hey, can you just drive me around and show me the place?
It's called the Cat Lady House?
Oh yeah.
At this point, I'm grateful that I have that on camera, that moment when I first kind of discovered the house, because I had no idea how much I would be roped into this thing. What was most interesting about this house was that Charles Lee, the lumber baron who built this home, his mills were across the street from his house. And that was to the detriment of his houses because they burned down multiple times, but every single time he would just rebuild a new house. And all of the woodwork, all of the sashes, everything in that house came from his mills. But what's funny is that a lot of people really only know it for who lived there most recently, which is Rosemary DeJezero. She was a very eccentric person who had a pet leopard that she would walk down the sidewalk, and everyone that's come to this house has a story. It's unbelievable how many different things that I've heard. She had a leopard, she had a black panther, she had an ocelot, she had monkeys. There was all kinds of stories that just came to the house as we were restoring the house. Since 2011, there had been conversations about tearing the house down, and it was only because of people in the community who had stepped up and said, not this house, that the house was still standing. And so by 2016, it had randomly come up at City Council as a, hey, that house isn't looking so good, we should do something about it. And so they decided to tear the house down. And then right after that vote, there was another huge pushback where they overturned the vote and said, okay, we're gonna list it, we're gonna do our best to make sure that we can get this thing sold, and we can at least say that we tried. So I thought this would be a great part of my documentary. And then in doing the research and in doing the interviews, it was like all of the answers for this house were being told to me. And then one day I was house sitting for my friends who, they restored this beautiful Queen Anne. I remember thinking to myself, like, it's so great being able to be in these types of houses, especially restorations. They're inspiring to be in, especially when you know what they've come from. And so from there it turned into, okay, what if the upstairs bedrooms were offices that could support the first floor, which could be like a public space, and could we utilize this as a resource center? Could this be an event space? I applied for a grant through the MEDC called Public Spaces, Community Places. The whole concept of that grant is to take a vacant spot and to turn it into something for public use. And that's exactly what we were doing with the Lee, so it was a perfect fit. So at this point in the course of the project, I had gone from being like a guy making a documentary to an activist for the house, to a volunteer coordinator, a project manager, and then I had to put on a fundraising hat. And we had to raise $25,000 in order to get a $25,000 match. We crossed over that threshold, over the $25,000 mark, but it wasn't just that. We eventually got up to $36,000. So we completely outraised what we expected to raise, and the project was just completely greenlit from there. It's really taught me from the ground up all of the obstacles that are in place for people doing restorations, and so we want to be a resource for people doing restorations in the neighborhood. And a lot of the work that I'm leaning into now is working with the land bank to take what we've learned at the Lee and expand that into the other houses in the neighborhood, and to really help people along in getting these houses occupied. And so I want the Lee to focus that catalyst towards an entire generation that was told to leave like I was, and to not even try with these old houses. And so the fact that this award came in was just, it just kind of blew me away. I got the call and was brought to tears immediately, because this project has meant so much to me, and I've put everything that I can into this project, and at a certain point you kind of forget that you exist. And so to be acknowledged as the individual doing this project and championing this along is incredibly humbling, and not to mention the lineup of people that are also in this award ceremony. This is incredible, and I'm completely blown away, and I'm looking forward to everything that's to come from here. I'm really hoping that I've got a long-lasting career in preservation, and I'm really excited to share whatever might come after this.